All right, get ready to dive deep into Jane Austen's world, her novel, Pride and Prejudice.
Hmm.
We've got excerpts from some really interesting critical essays.
Okay.
And of course, passages straight from the novel itself. Our mission.
Yeah, I like that. A mission.
Well, we're going to unearth some of those hidden gems, about the characters,
Yeah.
Austen's genius writing techniques, and why this story is still captivating readers centuries later.
It really is remarkable, isn't it? Like, how can a novel that's been so widely read
I know.
and analyzed still have so much to offer?
Right.
There's always something new to discover.
Let's start with the character that everyone's buzzing about, Elizabeth Bennet. She's often hailed as a strong female lead, but what sets her apart from other heroines of the time?
Well, I think she's witty and independent.
Of course.
But it goes beyond that.
Mm.
Austen gives us these glimpses into Elizabeth's mind, through those internal monologues.
Oh, I see.
So we see firsthand her intelligence and sharp observations. It's as if we're right there with her, privy to her inner thoughts, which makes her so much more relatable.
You're right. And it's not just about her intellect. Elizabeth kind of cleverly navigates those societal expectations. She knows what's expected of her as a young woman,
Right.
but she's not afraid to bend the rules a bit.
Exactly. When Mr. Darcy, at that first ball,
Oh, yeah.
makes that infamous remark about it being a punishment to dance with anyone other than, the handsome girl in the room,
Right.
you can just feel Elizabeth's spirit flare.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not even just about being slighted.
No.
It's about him just dismissing all of those other women
Mm.
as unsuitable partners based on, like, their looks or their social standing,
Yeah. And she doesn't let him get away with it either.
Oh, no.
When she throws his words back at him later, it's almost like she's saying, don't underestimate me, Mr. Darcy.
Yeah, absolutely. That really sets the stage for their complicated relationship,
Oh,
right?
totally.
You've got Darcy's pride, and then you've got Elizabeth's prejudice. It's kind of a recipe for conflict,
Yeah.
but it also creates this incredible tension that just keeps you hooked as a reader.
Okay, so speaking of Mr. Darcy, the essays we're looking at today, they bring up an interesting point. Some critics actually find him too exaggerated,
Real.
almost like a caricature of the aloof, wealthy gentleman. So is Austen being deliberate here?
Well, it's a valid point.
Yeah.
But I think you have to consider this. You have to look at other characters,
Okay.
like Mr. Collins
Uh-huh.
and Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Okay.
They are so over the top in their pride
I know.
and their social climbing.
Yeah.
So that Darcy, with all of his flaws,
Yeah.
seems so much more nuanced.
Oh, so you're saying that he's not just like a cardboard cutout
Exactly.
of the brooding romantic hero.
Exactly. He has depth, even if it takes some time for it to surface.
Yep.
And those contrasting characters
Right.
really highlight his subtle transformation, making him more human and ultimately more compelling.
Okay, so Pride and Prejudice, it's brimming with these really memorable female characters.
Yes.
So we can't forget Jan,
Right.
the eldest Bennet sister. She's often described as, beautiful, sweet-tempered, but is there more to her than meets the eye?
Ah, Jane. I think she's often overlooked
Yeah.
because her goodness appears so simple. But Austen is sneaky. She uses these really tiny details
So interesting.
to reveal Jane's strength,
Okay.
like her unwavering belief in people, even when they might not deserve it.
Right.
So this suggests that there's a depth of character that goes beyond just surface charm.
It's those little nuances that make Austen such a master of character development.
Totally.
And then you have Mary. She always strikes me as that person trying a little too hard to sound intellectual.
Yes, Mary. Austen doesn't hold back in portraying her awkward attempts to appear intelligent.
No, she doesn't.
And you see this in her habit of copying moral sentiments and her less than stellar piano playing.
And let's not forget her ultimate fate, marrying one of Mr. Phillips' clerks. It's not exactly a fairy tale ending, is it?
No, it's not. But it does raise a question about Austen's intention. Some scholars suggest it's a satirical jab at the societal pressures on women.
Oh, okay.
Of the time.
Yeah.
Mary's desperation to be seen as accomplished, even if her efforts are, a bit contrived,
Yeah.
reflects the limited options that were available to women of her era.
Right. It's a reminder that marriage wasn't always about love and happiness.
Okay.
For many, it was really a matter of survival.
Exactly.
Okay. And then there's Lydia, the youngest Bennet sister, All about having fun, throws caution to the wind.
Right.
Her impulsiveness really stirs things up in the plot.
And that's where Austen masterfully blends lightheartedness with serious social commentary, right?
Okay.
So, Lydia's elopement with Wickham.
Oh, what a scandal.
I know.
Throws the entire family's reputation into jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, in those times, that can mean social ruin.
I know.
It makes you wonder if Austen is kind of using Lydia to highlight the dangers of recklessness in a society that's so obsessed with appearances.
That's a good point. And it's a stark contrast to Charlotte Lucas's very pragmatic approach to marriage.
Right.
You know, she makes a very calculated decision to marry Mr. Collins. Not for love,
No.
but for security. And again, a reminder that for many women, marriage was less about romance and more about survival.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this juxtaposition between Charlotte and Elizabeth is crucial.
Yeah.
You know, Elizabeth, even though she's tempted by Wickham's charm, she refuses to compromise her values. She really yearns for a marriage built on like a genuine connection, not just convenience.
Right.
This speaks volumes about her character.
Now, on to Austen's writing. These essays really focus on her mastery of dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just conversation. It's how we really get to know the characters, how the plot unfolds, and of course, how Austen delivers those witty observations about society.
Right. And think about Darcy's first proposal to Elizabeth.
Oh, I know.
It's a train wreck.
It's a disaster.
He's just blinded by pride and assumptions about her family, just fumbling over his feelings. And Elizabeth, true to form, calls him out on his arrogance.
Oh, and that scene where Elizabeth is teasing Colonel Forster about not having enough officers
Yes.
for all the ladies at the Meryton Ball.
I love that.
It's hilarious, but it also reveals those subtle social dynamics
Right.
that are at play. You see Elizabeth using language to navigate these situations with intelligence and wit.
Exactly. Austen isn't just trying to entertain us. She's subtly critiquing the norms and the expectations of her time. Through these seemingly lighthearted conversations, she's exposing, like, the hypocrisy and the absurdity of the social world.
It's not just about the clever banter either. Austen uses dialogue to create genuine tension and to propel the plot forward. Like, remember that first meeting between Elizabeth and Darcy at the ball?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he refuses to dance with her?
Oh, I know.
That one conversation sets the stage for their entire relationship, filled with misunderstandings and these evolving perceptions.
You're right. That initial dialogue, seemingly trivial, becomes like this catalyst for the whole story,
Yeah.
right? It establishes their conflicting personalities, and it lays the groundwork for, their eventual connection, which makes their journey all the more satisfying.
The essays also highlight Austen's use of misunderstanding and misjudgment as a plot device. And it's not just about romantic misunderstandings. It's woven into the fabric of their society. Like characters constantly misjudging each other's intentions,
Right.
their social standing leading to these comical, sometimes dramatic results.
Yes.
Think about how Elizabeth misinterprets Darcy's actions,
Oh, yeah.
fueling her prejudice against him. This misunderstanding becomes the central conflict of the whole story.
And it's fascinating how Austen uses these misunderstandings to reveal character flaws.
Yeah.
And societal prejudices, right?
Right.
So it's not just about creating drama. It's about exposing those deeper workings of human nature and the pitfalls of societal expectations.
It makes you realize how often we jump to conclusions based on limited information.
Oh, absolutely.
But here's the question that intrigues me. Why does Pride and Prejudice still resonate with readers today? I mean, we know that Austen was a master of character development, social commentary, but what makes this particular story so timeless?
Well, I think it's the way that Austen blends those enduring themes
Okay.
with relatable characters, right? So you've got love, marriage, social class, family dynamics. These are all still relevant today, even though the context has shifted.
Right.
And I think we just see ourselves reflected in these characters, even though they lived centuries ago.
And those characters, they might wear empire waist dresses, they attend balls, but there's struggles with love, family, societal pressures. I mean, it feels incredibly real.
I know.
Don't you think?
Yes. We see their flaws, their growth, their triumphs. They're not perfect,
Right.
but they're human. And that's what makes them connect with readers, like across generations.
And then there's Austen's wit. Her observations about human nature are so sharp
I know.
and insightful.
And they never get old.
I mean, who hasn't encountered a Mr. Collins in their life?
Wow.
That awkward,
Oh, my goodness.
Overbearing character who just doesn't quite get social cues.
Oh, he's timeless.
He's timeless.
Totally.
And the way Austen satirizes these social situations
Yeah.
is what makes them both entertaining
Uh-huh.
and thought-provoking.
It's like she's holding up this mirror to society
Right.
and forcing us to, like, laugh at ourselves and recognize those timeless patterns of human behavior.
So we've got relatable characters, enduring themes, sharp wit. But is that all there is to Pride and Prejudice? What about those deeper layers of Austen's writing, like her masterful use of techniques, like free, indirect discourse,
Oh, yeah.
foreshadowing? We'll delve into those aspects after a quick break.
Yeah, I'm excited to unpack those elements. They're subtle, but so crucial to understanding,
Right.
the true brilliance of Austen's craft.
Yeah.
Picking up where we left off with those deeper layers of Austen's writing, one of the things that makes Austen so captivating is her use of free, indirect discourse.
Yeah, that technique where the reader feels like they're in the character's head.
Exactly. Experiencing their thoughts and feelings, like, firsthand.
Right, firsthand. It's subtle.
It is subtle, but it creates this incredible intimacy with the characters.
Yeah.
Especially Elizabeth. We're not just observing her actions.
Right.
We're experiencing the world through her eyes.
Yeah.
We feel her wit, her frustrations, and that, like, evolving understanding of everything around her.
It's like we're living the story alongside her, not just reading about it.
Right.
You mentioned foreshadowing, too.
Yes.
How does Austen use that?
Well, Austen plants these little seeds
Okay.
throughout the story, hinting at future events or revelations. Like early on, for instance, there's a conversation about Darcy's trustworthiness.
Uh-huh.
Elizabeth dismisses the negative rumors
Right?
about him as just gossip.
Yeah.
But then later, those rumors turn out to have some truth to them.
Oh, wow.
So it makes you realize that Austen was kind of subtly preparing us for those revelations all along.
It's like she's playing a game with the reader,
Yeah.
challenging us to pay attention to those seemingly insignificant details because they might hold the key to understanding the
Yeah.
characters, the plot. It's no wonder people go back to this book then and again. There's always something new to discover.
Exactly. And let's not forget the role of letters in Pride and Prejudice. They're not just a way for characters to communicate. I mean, they drive the plot, reveal their inner thoughts, motivations. Think about Darcy's letter to Elizabeth after she rejects his proposal.
Oh, that's a turning point.
Right. It's like a turning point in the story.
It is crucial. We see Darcy's side of the story, his explanation for his past actions, the truth about Wickham.
Right.
It forces Elizabeth to confront her own prejudices and really see Darcy in a new light.
Exactly. The letter acts as a catalyst for Elizabeth's transformation. She can't rely on her initial judgments anymore.
Right.
She has to reevaluate everything she thought she knew about Darcy.
Wow.
It's a brilliant narrative device.
Yeah.
Allows Austen to manipulate the flow of information, create suspense, surprise.
And it's not just Darcy's letter. Think about the miscommunications that arise from other letters in the novel.
Oh, yeah.
Like when Jane misinterprets Caroline Bingley's letter about their move to London.
Yes.
It just highlights how easily communication can break down, especially in a society that relied so heavily on written correspondence.
It makes you appreciate how much we take for granted today.
I know.
In terms of instant communication, right?
Right.
But it also reminds us to be careful about reading between the lines and to consider the sender's perspective. Austen was keenly aware of these complexities, and she used them to create these really realistic, relatable conflicts.
It makes you wonder if she's also subtly commenting on the limitations of language itself, how words can be misinterpreted and lead to all sorts of complications. Okay, so going back to the characters, we've talked about Elizabeth and Darcy and their complex relationship.
Yeah.
But Austen also brilliantly portrays those dynamics within the Bennet family.
Yes.
I mean, they're a chaotic bunch.
They are indeed.
But that's part of what makes them so relatable, right?
Yes. They're not like a picture-perfect family.
Well,
They bicker, they have their quirks, they often drive each other crazy.
totally.
But, you have Mrs. Bennet, who's obsessed with marrying off her daughters.
Oh, she's so overbearing.
And then there's Mr. Bennet, who seems so detached.
Yeah.
Uses sarcasm as a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And then each of the daughters, with their distinct personalities, ambitions.
Right. It's a family portrait that feels so familiar.
Now.
Even centuries later. I mean, don't you think most of us can relate to those family dynamics?
Totally.
Those moments of frustration,
Yeah.
affection, even if our families don't live in 19th century England.
Absolutely. And the Bennet family, despite their flaws,
Right.
they ultimately love and support each other. They navigate those social pressures, personal challenges
Yeah.
together, really highlighting those, those family bonds, even amidst the chaos and disagreements.
It's definitely something we can all connect with.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've discussed how Austen uses dialogue, letters, even misunderstandings to propel her story forward. But let's zoom out for a moment.
Okay.
Consider the broader context of Pride and Prejudice.
Right.
It's not just a charming romance, it's a social commentary on 19th century England.
Right. And Austen was writing during a time of significant social change.
Yeah.
The Industrial Revolution, transforming society. Those traditional class structures were being challenged. And she doesn't shy away from portraying like that rigid social hierarchy of her time
No, she doesn't.
and its impact on relationships.
You see it in how social status dictates, who can interact with whom,
Right.
how families are judged, even how marriages are formed. Think about the Bingley sisters.
Oh, yes.
And their snobbery towards Elizabeth and her family. They represent that upper-class mentality that looks down on those they perceive as socially inferior.
And Austen brilliantly exposes the hypocrisy of this system.
Right.
She shows us that wealth, social standing,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily equate to good character
Yeah.
or genuine happiness.
Right. Look at Mr. Collins.
Oh, yes.
With his pompous self-importance, awkward attempts to impress Lady Catherine de Bourgh. He's almost like a walking satire of that social climbing mentality that Austen critiques.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like she's saying that true worth lies in character, not in social standing or material possessions.
It's a message that still resonates today, even in a world that places so much emphasis on outward appearances, social media status.
Absolutely. Austen reminds us that judging people solely on their social status or their material wealth, it's shallow and ultimately misleading. If you want to assess their character, you have to look beyond those superficial markers and recognize that inherent worth of every individual.
And let's not forget how Austen subtly portrays the limitations placed on women.
Right.
We already talked about Charlotte Lucas's pragmatic decision to marry Mr. Collins for financial security. But you also have Lydia's vulnerability and the really devastating consequences of her elopement.
Right, and Lydia's story just highlights that precarious position of women in that era.
Yeah.
Their reputations were fragile. Their choices were often limited by societal expectations.
Yeah.
And a lack of economic independence.
Right.
It makes you appreciate how far we've come in terms of women's rights and societal perceptions.
Yeah.
But it also reminds us that we still have work to do to achieve true equality.
It's like Austen is subtly urging us to question those ingrained societal norms. Advocate for a world where women have the same opportunities, freedoms,
as men.
And she does it with such wit and finesse.
It's that combination of social commentary, sharp wit, and engaging characters that makes Pride and Prejudice so compelling. Austen doesn't preach.
No.
She invites us to observe, to think critically, and to draw our own conclusions about the world that she so vividly portrays.
Now, we've talked about the social context, but what about the setting itself? How does Austen use that physical environment to kind of reflect those social dynamics, even the emotional states of her characters? And how does she create that sense of time and place? That transports us